Greetings wargamers, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple fantasy building for your tabletop wargames and RPGs. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a really simple fantasy building that's quick to put together and really easy to make. So let's head straight to the bench and get started. I began by cutting out the basic shapes of the building. For this basic building I decided on a single story and I used my hot wire table to make most of the cuts, but they are all easy enough to make with a sharp knife and a ruler. The overall size of the building is around 4 by 6 inches, but all of these techniques can be applied to buildings of any size. First step is to mark out the stones for one of the end faces. As my stone area is not a whole number of centimetres in height, I started with a row of 1.5 centimetre bricks, followed by rows of bricks 1 centimetre tall. I did not mark out the stones all the way up to the two end pieces as I wanted to add some wooden elements to the top. I used a pen to mark the end points of the line, then used a ballpoint pen and a ruler to engrave the lines slightly deeper. Next, I lined the piece up with one of the sides to carry those marks across. As this building will be made with butt joints, it's important to line up the bricks as best as you can. Next, I sliced shallow cuts into the foam with my X-Acto knife before deepening the grooves with my ballpoint pen once again. When it came to the wall with the door and the windows, I started by first marking out those elements and adding some decorative stones around the window. I then added the lines just like on all the other sides of the building and engraved them exactly the same way. With all the stonework engraved, I added some texture to the foam using a scrunched up ball of tinfoil. You can use real pieces of stone for this, but using the tinfoil was quicker and produced a softer texture. Once the texture was added, I glued the walls together with PVA glue using dressmaking pins to hold the pieces together while they dried. When doing this, try and place the pins in the recesses between the bricks so as not to mar the surface of the bricks. The next step was to glue on the roof. One of my roof pieces was 6mm wider than the other to account for the thickness of the foam which it would be placed on top of to create the peak of the roof. Once the roof was in place, I cut some 1cm and some 0.5 cm wide strips of 3mm balsa wood to add some decoration to the upper portion of the wall. I also added lengths of 5mm wide balsa to hide the edges of the roof piece. Using a wire brush, I added some texture to the balsa to emulate the wood grain. To detail the roof, I used cereal box cards, which I cut into 2cm wide strips and then drew a line halfway down each strip. I then marked out 1cm sections to 1/2 of the strip to mark the tiles. I used a pair of scissors to cut slits along these marks to separate the tiles, and then used a pair of clippers to snip off the corners of each tile to give it a more interesting shape. I altered these strips so the tiles would not line up perfectly, but instead be staggered to give a more realistic look. To add the tiles to the roof, I used PVA glue applied with a brush. When I got to the peak of the roof, I cut a strip of cereal card using the fold of the box to my advantage to cap the roof. I also added some cereal card behind the windows. This will be painted black so that the inside of the building cannot be seen. This is a really great technique if you want to get a lot of buildings that you don't want to be accessible on the table but want them to look a little bit more realistic. I also made a very simple door from a rectangle of balsa wood which I drew planks onto and used a wire brush to add texture to. I used the head of a dressmaker's pin as the door handle. With the main build complete, it was time to base the building. I made the base from EPVC, cutting it slightly larger than the building and using a file to round off the edges. I added a bead of PVA glue around the base of the building and placed a few drops of superglue around the rim to tack the building in place while the PVA glue dried. Finally, I added PVA glue around the base before sprinkling some larger pieces of slate around the very base of the building, and then filling in the rest of the area with a mixture of fine and coarse sand. And there you have it, a simple and easy to make fantasy building that will look great on any table. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like below and hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments what sort of builds you'd like to see in the future. And until next time, happy gaming.